This dataset contains the health insurance premiums for 36 people who were in the late 20s in 2014. You can check out the previous video on how to construct a frequency distribution table for group data. We're going to construct a frequency histogram and a frequency polygon. To construct a frequency histogram, draw a graph. Class boundaries will be labeled on the x-axis, and frequencies will be labeled on the y-axis. Looking at the class boundaries, we can see that there are 5 lower class boundaries plus 1 upper class boundary at the end. So we will use 6 marks to mark the x-axis to label the 5 lower class boundaries plus 1 upper class boundary at the end. Notice the lowest frequency is 1 and the highest frequency is 13. Using 7 marks on the y-axis going from 2 to 14 will be enough to label all the frequencies. For the first class, going from 113.5 and up to 148.5, the frequency is 10. So draw a rectangle with a height of 10 between the first class boundaries. Notice the left side of the rectangle is on top of 113.5 and the right side of the rectangle is on top of 148.5. For the second class, going from 148.5 and up to 183.5, the frequency is 13. So draw a rectangle with a height of 13 between the second class boundaries. Notice the left side of the rectangle is on top of 148.5 and the right side of the rectangle is on top of 183.5. And there's no gap between the rectangles. For the third class, going from 183.5 and up to 218.5, the frequency is 9. So draw a rectangle with a height of 9 between the third class boundaries. Notice the left side of the rectangle is on top of 183.5 and the right side of the rectangle is on top of 218.5. And there's no gap between any rectangle. A quick glance at the frequency histogram will show us the shape of the data distribution. In this case, notice how the data is skewed to the right, and we can quickly see that most people in the late 20s pay less than $219 for the health insurance premium. To construct a frequency polygon, go to each class. First, mark the class midpoint, and then mark the height of the class right above the midpoint. So, for the first class, going from 113.5 and up to 148.5, the class midpoint is 131. Go to the x-axis, mark that in the middle of the class boundaries. Now, mark the class height of 10 above 131. And for the second class, going from 148.5 and up to 183.5, the class midpoint is 166. Go to the x-axis, mark that in the middle of the class boundaries. Now, mark the class height of 13 right above 166. Likewise, for the third class, going from 183.5 and up to 218.5, the class midpoint is 201. Go to the x-axis, mark that in the middle of the class boundaries. Now, mark the class height of 9 right above 201. For continuity, mark a point on the x-axis in front of the first lower boundary, and mark another point on the x-axis behind the last upper boundary. Now connect the dots. If we overlay the frequency polygon on top of the frequency histogram, we can see that both types of graphs look very similar, and they can be used to quickly observe the shape of the data distribution. However, the frequency polygon is a better choice if you want to overlay the graphs from several different datasets for quick visual comparisons.